What's going on, good people? It's yours truly, Mike, here with you once again, and changing things a little different this weekend. I'm recording this at night, so you guys can have it fresh Sunday or Monday, whichever day I decide to put this out. But initial reactions to a couple games that took place today. We're gonna start off with, I hope you guys, it's showing up on the screen here, but Oklahoma versus Tennessee. Just initial reactions and thoughts and takeaways from the game, but I felt like this was the Oklahoma that we kind of saw at the beginning of the season. John Mateer, especially in that second half, started looking phased, in sync. That what we kind of have talked about. A lot of people talked about him. What he's gonna put out there for film, put out there on the field. What we're gonna see, what we're gonna expect. 72 QBR. I mean, it's not too bad. He was 19 to 29, 159 yards, but he was using his legs. And that's one thing I want to pinpoint on and key in on is that is something that we saw, especially in the Michigan matchup. He was using his legs, a lot of QB counter, QB designed runs for him from Arbuncle, the offensive coordinator. We saw that take place, and I feel like that's what really helped open this offense up a little bit more. We also saw him hit his key receivers for big chunks of plays in this game as well. Last game, especially in the Texas matchup for the Red River rivalry, he was missing a couple passes. And then when they played Ole Miss, he wasn't hitting his receivers as well. So that's one thing I definitely want to harp on and just give credit to in this game is they really found a way to win in all three phases of this game, because Tennessee had 2 turnovers, huge turnovers to end the second quarter. You can't have that. Yes, he threw an interception. Yes, John Mateer threw an interception. But when you look at the turnover column, you can always tell who is going to win the game. Who is going to win the game, that can dictate and tell you the game. But I personally feel like this is overall a good team win in all three phases. Yes, this is another good SEC opponent that you're playing, so mistakes are definitely going to happen. When you see the grand scheme of things, this is definitely what they needed to get back on, back on track, to get themselves back on track within the SEC. That's just like my personal initial thoughts and reactions. They go on to play Alabama next week at Alabama, and then trying to play Missouri at home, and then their last game of the season is against LSU. So it's going to be tough. The Alabama game is really going to be tough, and the reason that's why I really said that this is a good game to get back on track against another good top 25 an opponent to get you ready for what you're going to see against Alabama, because they'll hit you and dice you up in several different ways. They're pretty sound on defense and offense and special teams. They really made themselves bounce back after the FSU fiasco, fluke, whatever you want to call it. They've really bounced back after that. So for this upcoming matchup against Alabama, this is what we need to personally see from Oklahoma in all three phases. They got to put together what they need to do. John Mateer's got to once again look in sync, in phase, hitting his receivers and using his legs. And then, hats off to the Sooners defense. It looked a little shaky at the beginning of the game because Tennessee was driving on them. Joey Aguilar was finding key receivers. It looked like they were going to run the table on them for a second, if I'm being completely honest. That defense held their own, and they caused a lot of pressure to them. Those sacks showed up a lot. Yes, it was tough for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offensive line, they had a couple penalties, and they gave up a couple sacks. They're definitely going to need to clean that up on film, because we know Alabama's, they're going to attack. That front seven, that front box, defensive line, they're going to attack. So that's something they're going to have to really harp on this week of practice and clean up. But shout out to the Oklahoma defense. Now, fast forward, my initial reaction and thoughts when it comes to Tennessee. They looked hot. Personally, to me, they looked hot. Probably I would say midway through the second quarter. They were looking good. Joey Aguilar was hitting his receivers. They were dicing them up. They were looking good. But I feel like they hit the wall every single week. In my personal opinion, when I'm watching them play, they hit a wall. They did it against Alabama, and they did it against Mississippi State. They did it again this weekend, where it's like they just stall out. And then they'll have spurts and moments throughout the games where it's like, okay, hold on. They're stringing stuff together, but then they continue to just level out. And I feel like that is something that they personally have to find a way to get over that hump. Because I believe once they can get over that hump, I don't know if it'll be able, they dropped to 6-3. I don't know if it'll happen this season as far as college football playoff hopes. Yes, Joey Aguilar had 393 yards total. Yes, that's great. But they also had only 63 yards of rushing. They lost the rushing battle. Meanwhile, Oklahoma had 192 being led by Robinson. And Oklahoma has not been good running the ball all season. So they got beat in that aspect. But, receiving was huge. But they got to find a way to run the ball. And they got to find a way to get over that hump for them to be successful. I don't know where they'll drop in the AP polls because that's going to come out tomorrow. They could be in the 20s, or they might be out of it because they lost to ranked number 18 Oklahoma. So we'll just have to see what the AP polls come out to be. But that's kind of like my personal takeaways when I think of Tennessee in this matchup, and just kind of seeing a little kind of repetition of things from previous games that they played throughout the season. Now, fast forwarding to Georgia versus Florida. I will say this is definitely a game that came down, and you hate to say that certain plays will decide the game, but I personally believe 2 plays in this game, 2 scenarios decided the outcome in this game. The 4th and 1 and the referees saying that wasn't a catch. I personally say that was a catch because you can definitely tell personally when we're viewing it and you're seeing it, the ball hit his forearm and he caught it. That's just my personal opinion. I'm calling it a catch. Whether you want to say it wasn't, it's clear as day to me. My personal opinion, it's a catch. And then the 4th and 1, we have seen and I'm watching the game just as much as you, and I know that coaches upstairs in the booth are seeing it as well. Everybody's seeing it. I'm not a personal fan of that play call on that 4th and 1. The reason why is because you've been running the ball all up and down on Georgia. I personally would have liked to have spread it out from the box because the box was stacked. I believe it was 2 receivers tight to the offensive line, and I forget how they were set up on the other side, but I'm trying to remember, just remember the framing of the picture. But I'm not a fan of that formation. You can definitely still run it, but the formation is the thing that bothered me the most, because if you're trying to run the ball, everything is too tight. Everybody's going to just crash down, and we saw that Georgia's defensive line stemmed closer in to stop the run because they knew you were going to run it on 4th and 1. You've been running on them all night. So I personally believe it should have been spread out the receivers a little bit, spread out the formation, give yourself a little bit more room to work with. That way, if you wanted to, the run wasn't there, you can hit an RPO, or DJ could pull it to get a little bit extra yard. That's just my personal initial thoughts. When I say 2 plays really kind of decided the game, because Georgia was on their heels. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Personally, I believe Georgia was on their heels, especially in that first half, because that was Georgia's kind of trend this year. They haven't been showing up that much in the first half. A lot of teams have been jumping on them and attacking them in the first half, and then they show up in the second half, and they kind of just squeaked by and escaped a couple of these games. We've seen it in Tennessee. We saw it. I can't remember. There was another one. Oh, Auburn. They squeaked by that one. And I feel like this is another one they kind of squeaked by. Obviously, the scoreboard says another thing, and they were able to get down to the 1 yard line to ice the game. But I'm talking about before that. That is what I believe they kind of squeaked by, because Florida was definitely holding on. And I believe they should have won that game. But let me know in the comments what you guys think, your thoughts and opinions of this week of college football. Obviously, next week is going to be another crazy weekend, because you got Oklahoma versus Alabama, and some other stat games. And a lot of upsets also took place, so be sure to check out my TikTok at Mike in the Game, where we're going to go over the top 25. So I will catch you guys in the next one, and as always, be safe.